Hey guys, welcome back to the What's Next podcast. Coming to you from the Live Well Studios right here in beautiful Monterey, California. It's a beautiful day outside. We're just out at the beach. Today I've got an amazing guest, Miss Gabi Chavez. Gabi with an I. How are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here. I've never been on a podcast before.
I saw you the other day and you're a barista right now.
I am currently a barista.
How do you dig that?
I like it. Actually love it. It's really something enjoyable for me to be part of people's day, kind of get to make them feel special, give them their beverage. You know, I like to do a latte art, and it's actually, it's a heartfelt project for me because it's my partner and his family's cafe.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's called cafeguarani.
Right.
It's a Paraguayan bakery and cafe that they opened here in Pacific Grove.
What's art? What do you mean? Like the foam on the top? Or
The
you
latte
make
art.
all the design?
Yeah.
Latte art. That's what
yeah.
it is, huh?
Yeah, I like to do that.
I see them do Christmas trees and do different things.
Hearts and flowers and things
How
like
cool.
that. Yeah.
Right. So how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing that on and off for about 4 years now since they opened.
Oh, okay.
Because they opened in 2020.
You helped them crack the doors. Right on.
Yeah.
Right.
It was a big project for the family to put together, and we got the space in 2019 and it had to be renovated and all these things, and then the pandemic hit.
Sure,
and
right.
that threw a big wrench in things. But we opened up in April of 2020, and it was only takeout for a really long time.
Sure.
But now it's fully open, and there's a beautiful patio in the back, and we have like Paraguayan art on the walls and things like that. There's not that many Paraguayan restaurants in the country.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to be part of that tradition. And we have people coming from all over because, Paraguayan immigrants and things like that that have learned about us and kind of come because they can't find their, traditional foods in very many places.
Oh, so you serve some food also? Or?
Yeah, empanadas and all kinds of different traditional like breads and desserts and things from Paraguay that they make in-house. So.
I don't know anything about Paraguay.
Well, I've actually never been yet, so I would love to go sometime. I feel like I know a lot about the food and culture now, and being part of the family for several years now. But it's a really interesting country right in the center of South America. It's landlocked, but it's surrounded by Argentina and Brazil, and I want to say Bolivia. And it's a mixture of European and indigenous culture. So Guarani is the official language alongside Spanish, and there's just a lot. I would not say more than other countries in South America, but it is very present, like the indigenous communities and language and traditions. So it seems
grow
like
coffee there? Or?
They grow more yerba mate. That's what they're really known for. So we serve yerba mate in the cafe as well.
Okay, what is that? I don't know what that is. I've heard the word, it seems like.
Yeah, it's a green tea that's native to South America. It's something that you drink. It's caffeinated, and it's something that is a huge part of the culture there. So you usually drink it in a special gourd, and you have the loose leaves and a special straw that has a filter at the bottom. It's called a bombilla, and then you will have a thermos of water, and you'll see people walking around carrying their mate and their thermos everywhere. They take it with them. Yeah. It's a huge part of the culture. So it's kind of gotten a lot more popularized since Argentina won the World Cup, and Lionel Messi he drinks mate a lot. So a lot of young soccer players come into the cafe wanting to try it for the first time. And it's something that you can't find in that many places.
So your partner's family is from there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So they know exactly what they're doing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And they have like a tradition through the generations of having restaurants and different culinary arts. So it's kind of a big family tradition.
Down there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So they just brought that here. Mm-hmm. How cool.
Yeah.
Right. So they knew exactly what they were doing when they were setting it up. I mean, other than the pandemic crap.
Right. There's
so
so many things that we couldn't have foreseen. But yeah, it was kind of a lifelong dream for them. So it's been cool to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to you, and you went to college in New York.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Where'd you go?
So I went to New York University, NYU.
Fancy schmancy.
Yeah. I studied international relations there.
Oh, perfect.
And I studied abroad during my time at NYU. I studied in Berlin, Germany, and in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Wow.
My specialization was more in South American international relations, and I really enjoyed it. I grew up in Pacific Grove, California.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
It's a really small town. You know, my high school had about 600 students, and
Holy cow.
I wanted to go out to the big city, and I did that.
Couldn't have picked a bigger city to go to.
Yeah.
Holy cow, you jumped right in.
It was a little bit of a culture shock, but I really enjoyed it. And then I'm kind of a person of extremes, so as soon as I graduated from NYU, I wanted to get out of the big city, and then I moved back to Germany at that time, and I lived on a small farm in a village of 100 people for a while.
How did that come to be?
That was...
You just needed to get out of the city, or you just
Yeah.
had love for Germany at that point?
I did. Well, I have a love for languages in
I
general, and so I had started learning German while I was studying, doing my degree, and I did a program in Berlin.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch?
Ich spreche Deutsch, yeah. And I wanted to be immersed more, and yeah, I was just kind of having a little bit of difficulty, like figuring out what I wanted to do next. And
That's the name of the podcast.
Yeah.
What's next? I know, right?
So I just kind of wanted to. I realized that New York City was a good experience. I'm glad I went there and I lived that life for a time, but I realized it just wasn't for me in terms of the culture, the kind of the rat race, like the hyper competitive, like the productivity, climbing the ladders and all those things. I just wasn't finding like the meaning that I thought I was going to find in it. So I just needed to go to the countryside and kind of learn a little bit more about myself.
Sure.
And so I did that for a time. And then...
Seemed like New York would be a perfect place for what you studied.
Yeah, it was. Like...
So many walks, so many cultures.
Definitely.
Together, yeah.
Yeah. And, I mean, it's where the UN headquarters are, and I kind of was thinking of doing, diplomacy and those kinds of things.
Right.
But like I said, it just ended up just not feeling right for me. That kind of like high pressure and it was just, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of like careful what you wish for. I thought that was what I wanted, and I realized it wasn't. So
Well, you followed that dream, and you can't feel bad about it.
Yeah, no, it was a good life experience, as I said, and obviously I made a lot of friends, and I learned a lot of things, and I studied languages, and I got to travel to many countries, and then I did end up working sort of in that arena. I mean, related. I worked in a study abroad program aboard a ship after that.
Really?
Yeah. So it's called Sea Education Association, or sometimes called Sea Semester. And it's a sailing vessel that's been outfitted with an oceanographic lab on board. And undergrad students go on board for a semester, and they join the crew. They learn how to man the ship and navigate and do lab watches as well. So they learn how to do all this kind of oceanographic sampling and taking water samples and all these things and filtering the water and looking at the chlorophyll and things like that. So that was really interesting as well.
And working as a sailing team, I'm part of a sailing team myself.
Oh, yeah?
Years ago, I've raced for years. And there's something about a bond of a crew. And I imagine
definitely.
they probably get that.
Oh, yeah.
Even over a semester.
Oh, definitely. And actually, most of the people who work on board, they were students themselves at one point and they just fell in love with the culture and the life at sea and that kind of. I mean, there's about 40 people max on board at a time. It's a tall ship, so it's not a huge vessel. It's very, it's a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity, and like I said, people fall in love with it and it becomes their career for, decades. There's a lot of people who've gotten married, there's next generations and that are children, they're raising their kids and all that thing. So that was really special. And I think another time where it was something that I always really wanted was a job that would allow me to travel the world. And I got that. And I was, once again, though, there's ups and downs and things that you don't realize, because I would be at sea for, months at a time and kind of cut off from things that were happening at home. And then also you can't really, put roots down anywhere because you're on the boat all the time and you're not getting paid that well. Like, you're not going to have a house or an apartment somewhere, to go home to. So you just crash with your friends or your parents, when you're off the ship and you're kind of
having an adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's an adventure. And then at one point though, he's fine, but my dad was having some health scares and he was in and out of the hospital for a time. And I was, really worried about him. We didn't really know what was going on. We didn't know if he was going to make it. And it didn't feel good to be at sea, and not knowing and being just so cut off from everything. So at that time, I decided to not renew my contract and I came back home to Monterey. And so I've been here for the last few years and kind of just figuring out.
I remember watching this movie called White Squall.
I've seen that.
Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And it's like the students on board are actually pulling lines. They're doing everything. Yeah. Or is that the same thing as what you were doing?
Yeah, it's very similar. We watched that movie on board sometimes.
Watch the end.
Like movie nights. I know. Luckily, never had.
Yeah, right.
A squall quite that bad hit us. But it's exactly like that. Like they stand watch, it's a 24-hour watch.
Yeah.
You separate the students into like A, B, and C watch. And they're helping man the ship. They're pulling lines, they're setting and striking the sails and doing all that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's dangerous stuff.
It can be dangerous, yeah.
Get after it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a little bit different, like on a traditional tall ship, as you might know, the sails, have to be raised and lowered, like on the crossbars. And our ship, to make it a little bit different, it was outfitted so you would set and strike the sails, kind of like a shower curtain.
Oh, I see.
So that no one ever has to climb them to tie the sails up.
Right.
So a slight modification.
Not quite as dangerous.
Yeah.
Right.
There's opportunities to go up in the rigging, but it's not necessary in order to secure the sails.
I see. Right.
Yeah.
I've been scuba diving on a few of those up in Lake Superior.
Oh yeah.
Big tall ships that are laying on the bottom.
Yeah.
Back in the day, they didn't have radios. They just kind of T-boned each other in the middle of and just sank right there.
That's crazy.
So it's kind of cool that you've got like an old ship, but you've got all the modern technology along with it too.
Yeah.
So you can experience what the old timers did, but still not worry about too much.
Definitely, yeah. It's old meets new.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to try that. So how many people are on the ship at a time? 30 or so, or?
Well, it had about a max capacity of 40. It takes about. If just the crew and no students, you would need about 12 people to man the ship.
I see, yeah.
But you could have about 25 students or so.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
It was awesome.
So where else did you go? Paraguay? Is that what you said?
No, I haven't been to Paraguay. That's on my list for sure.
Yeah. You went to Germany, and what was the other place you studied?
I went to Argentina.
Argentina, that's right.
To study, yeah.
Oh, okay. How long were you there? I know nothing about Argentina.
Oh, really?
Tell me.
It's an amazing country. Buenos Aires, the capital where I was, it's an incredible city. There's a lot of different estimates of the population size depending on how you define it, but a minimum of 13 million people. And it's definitely like the city that never sleeps, the true city that never sleeps. So I learned that coming there from New York.
Yeah.
They have, it's just part of the culture. It's not just the party, not just the partiers. It's a very late night sort of society. I would have been out, I would be going to a party. Starting, at midnight, we were like on a bus going to a party at midnight on a Friday night, and the ice cream shops are still open, and there's a grandfather and a small child eating ice cream, at midnight on a Friday night. They don't eat dinner until 10 p.m. earliest. I don't know what it is about Argentina, but they love the late night.
Partying.
Yeah, but it's just like I said, everyone from the little kids to the grandfathers, they're up at all hours, and it's a really beautiful country in terms of landscapes. Down in the south you have Patagonia, so it's the kind of, there's glaciers and penguins and all the things down at the tip, but then you have the Pampas, which is kind of like the savanna. There were gauchos, or the cowboys back in the day that roamed in that area of Argentina. And then up in the north it's kind of more it's closer to Bolivia, and so it's kind of more of that mountainous, the edge of like the Andes and things like that. It's got all kinds of things, yeah. And they do love yerba mate in Argentina. Tango, that
sure,
tango,
right.
they have Argentine tango. They are quite European in Argentina. That's one thing they kind of pride themselves on, you could say. So it does feel.
What do you mean? In what way?
The city, the architecture, like there's a lot of influence from Europe. So when you're walking around in Buenos Aires, like it feels like it could fit in
British or French.
They've had a few different, they were colonized just like the rest of South America, but they have had, they had a British period. They had, the Spanish and the Italians that came. So one thing that's left over from the British is that the subways in Argentina, like they run, the opposite side that you would expect, and things like that. But yeah, it's a very interesting culture, very really warm people.
Yeah. A lot of tourism.
Yeah. Soccer is really huge there.
Right,
Definitely.
Right.
Oh, when I was there,
Football.
actually, the Pope was named while I was there. Pope Francis, he's Argentinian.
Oh,
and
okay.
It was interesting to me to see how big of a celebration that was. I mean, everyone was out in the street. It was kind of like as if they had won the World Cup.
Right.
People were just like having these big parades and celebrating the Pope.
Is it very Catholic down there? Or?
It is still, but not as much as. That's why it was kind of funny that it was like such a big pride thing, because it's, there's Catholicism definitely, but it's become less influential over the decades. But they were still very prideful about the Pope.
Even if you're not Catholic, like, woo, he's Argentinian.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There must be an amazing history there too.
Definitely.
You ever get out into the, I don't know, the ruins of all that kind of thing? It must be amazing stuff out there. Like I said, I have a clue.
Yeah, no, they're unfortunately, there's a dark history in Argentina as well as the rest of South America, where there was a very terrible genocide of the indigenous peoples. So there's not that much left over, to be honest, of the indigenous peoples. which is really sad.
Yeah, right.
But compared to, other places in South America, like my father is from Peru, and I've been to Peru and, walked among the ruins in Machu Picchu and Cusco and things like that. There's not really that much like that in Argentina.
Right. Or they haven't found it yet anyway.
Yeah.
It's still buried in the jungles.
Yeah.
That's cool. Where's your dad from?
Peru.
Peru. Mm-hmm. And you've been there once, or did you go back there? Or?
I've been there a couple times.
I got to start traveling.
Yeah.
I don't see anything. Like, where is that? I don't know.
Yeah, there's so much out there in the world.
I know.
I've been a couple times to Peru. I had one extended stay there for a couple months where I did an internship after my time at SEA semester, taking part in a international oceanographic experiment that was happening. It was actually a German research institute called Geomar that was hosting this experiment off the coast of Peru and Lima. They set up these structures that they called mesocosms. So they kind of made these little structures out in the shallows of the water, where they made this kind of you could almost call it a giant bag, where they filled these mesocosms with deep seawater that they hauled in from off the coast. And they were doing some different experiments to see how ocean acidification and oh my gosh.
Yeah, that would.
Oxygen levels are going down in the ocean. So they're trying to see how that's playing out on different species and things like that.
Yeah.
And I stayed in Lima for 2 months to be part of that.
Less oxygen at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And there's a part in the ocean called the oxygen minimum zone. But it's expanding. That zone is expanding, and
I see. Right.
They're kind of trying to figure out what the implications of that
what they can do or why and all that. That's some interesting stuff that people just don't think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
People out there doing that stuff. What else have you been up to? How's what's the future of the coffee place? You guys gonna take that over or?
Yeah, I mean, my partner is one of the owners.
Oh, I see.
And definitely, I think he would like to take it over. I mean, his mom is still a part of it right now, but she'd like to, retire at some point as well. So luckily he has 2 brothers and 2 sisters. So there's plenty of hands in terms of the family.
Right. Yeah. But you seem to be enjoying it, I guess is what I'm asking. Is you want to keep doing that or are you going back into like what you've studied or?
At this point, I mean, it's kind of, my life is open-ended. I don't know.
Sure, right.
I'm always kind of looking
for
the next thing, exactly,
yeah, right.
into what's next, how else I can grow, how else I can learn. I imagine that I'll do other things,
sure, I know,
but
exactly.
for right now, I'm enjoying
Nothing's
the experience.
Yet,
yeah.
Right? That's too cool. Too cool.
So tell me how you started this project.
Well, I started this before the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Just to try to learn how to speak better.
Yeah.
Just to be able to have a conversation because I'm fairly shy,
Me too.
So it's like I do have problems with conversation. So it's like, let's just put it out there and, just do it on. Actually, we just started on audio. We weren't planning on having the cameras. And,
yeah.
My main idea was let's talk about the blue collar people. What's next for us now that manufacturing is gone and just trying to find a spot for us middle people, and let's just have a discussion about that. The rich are getting richer. There's more homeless every day. And it's like, what do we do in the middle here? And then, like I say, the pandemic hit and what's next is just anything you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Deep sea divers, marine biologists, anybody that has a cool story. It's like, let's see if I, can sit down and just talk, so
definitely.
That's where it all started.
Very cool.
Just keep progressing a little bit at a time. I think I'm getting better, but sometimes I get done, I'm like, oh, I was terrible at that. Oh, I hate this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can relate. But
Right.
I think that's cool that you wanted to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Exactly.
And actually improve and learn. I think that's important.
I don't know if I've improved, but I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, I think that counts.
So we were talking about music earlier. You said you like to sing. Do you ever sing at all, or?
Not very much,
No?
because as I said, I am pretty shy and I get stage fright.
I totally relate.
But
right?
I just love it. I think, I sing in the shower, and
Sure, right.
and
I'm impressed with myself.
yeah. I wish that singing and dancing was more part of our everyday culture, which I think it used to be in, across the world. I think that art and music and all of that, it became these things that like you have to be good at, and if you're not good at it, you don't do it, or you would never, partake in it, or, people think, oh, I'm not artistic, or I'm not creative, or I'm not musical. But I think everybody is, and it's kind of healing and therapeutic, right. And, part of the community. I wish that, I had a group that I could just sing with and stuff like that. Yeah.
Seem like you have an artistic soul.
I think so.
Yeah.
But I always used to say that I'm not,
Sure, right.
Because in school I was like, I was more the academic, and I was like, oh, I can't do art. I'm not going to take the art classes and things like that,
sure.
because I'm not an artist. Like some of my friends are. I have to, do journalism or this or that, So I've unlearned that a little bit.
Unlearn how to be artistic.
Yeah. Or unlearned those restrictions like that I used to put on myself that I was mentioning, where it's like, well, I'm not an artist like those people,
Right.
So I don't, like, I can't even partake in it. I do. I like to, draw or paint or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. You strike me as an artist.
Oh, that's cool.
I'd like to see your paintings and drawings.
Yeah.
I had I was raised by my grandpa, and he was a pro golfer, and he was very high, and he built a lot of different businesses, but he only had a 9th grade education, so he was always telling me, you have to take speech classes, and I always tried to take speech classes, but it's like so many times I'd go up on stage and just freeze.
Yeah.
And although I've studied, I know what I'm talking about, but I would just freeze, and it just bothered the crap out of me, and so that's why, you just got to keep pushing forward, whether it's art or singing or, music.
Definitely. Yeah. I think it's very hard. I think I struggle with speaking, and, it's very hard for me to put what I'm thinking out into the world.
Right.
Yeah. It's difficult. I mean, for some people it's not, but I can relate that it can be tough.
Yeah. Some people are just so, I get people in here and I don't have to say more than 6 or 7 words for an hour, and they take over the whole show. Yeah. It's like, hey, that's what I was looking for. Awesome.
You're like, you get off the hook. Well, you're supposed to be learning how to talk.
That turned out great because I had nothing to do with it. Perfect.
Yeah. That's funny. That's kind of like, my mom loves to talk, and I tease her sometimes, because there's been times where like I'm on the phone with her and it stopped working, and she doesn't even realize that, she can't hear me because she's just having a conversation. And I'm like, okay, great. Go for it, Mom.
I think she needed to get off her chest, whether you're listening to her or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like her already.
She's really sweet. Yeah.
They both here local, or?
They live here, yeah. She's also an immigrant from Venezuela.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she's a great woman, and she came to the U.S. to study abroad as well, and ended up meeting my dad and getting married and never going back. So,
nice,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Was she planning on going to the same studies as you, or?
No, actually, well, she was supposed to be studying pharmacy, and then she got this scholarship to study abroad in the U.S. for a year and learn English. It was basically, she was just supposed to learn English while she was here. And then when she ended up staying, she switched to food science. And I'm so impressed with her that she was able to get a bachelor's degree in English, after so little time in the U.S. and I don't even know how she did it.
Was she speaking English when she got here?
No, she didn't speak a word of English when she arrived.
That's impressive,
yeah,
huh?
Yeah.
Right.
Pretty cool. She she was 22 when she arrived. She didn't speak a word of English. And then basically about 4 years later, she had her Bachelor of Science degree.
And speaking English.
Yeah, and she
else.
even,
Wow.
she had gotten married and she had my brother before she even graduated. So she was like, her last year of college, she already had a baby and she was doing all of this stuff. I don't even understand how she did that.
Pregnancy before that and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
So
that's some drive. That's where you got it, huh?
I think so. I mean, both of my parents are pretty driven. So I sometimes I feel like I should be, they're very career oriented. And they've been working in the same jobs for about 30 years. So I kind of don't take after them in that I hop around a lot, and I've been kind of trying to figure out what my career is going to be for a long time now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I got a buddy that I went to school with, and he's worked the same job.
Yeah.
Ever since high school. It's like, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
Maybe my lack of focus. I have to keep moving around too. I get it.
Yeah.
Change up your life a little bit. You only go around once.
Yeah. Right? I know. I just, my problem, if it is a problem, has just always been I've had a lot of interests and then I just want to try a lot of different things. So.
Right. Is that a problem?
Yeah.
Not really.
I don't know. Yeah. It's societally, it could be kind of, because it's not a problem, but I have to, work on the judgment of myself too, because I really don't think other people care that much, what I'm doing. But I worry that other people are judging me, that I'm not, really climbing a ladder and like going, higher and higher in a certain career because I'm jumping around more laterally. Yeah. But again, at the end of the day, it's my life, and I don't think anyone's really that worried about it except for myself.
That's the thing about us shy people. I think we worry about things that aren't really even happening.
Right.
Right.
Yes. I think that's definitely why I struggle to speak, because I'm already judging what I'm going to say and how it's going to be taken and how it's going to be perceived, and all this too much pressure all the time. So I clam up.
Right.
Yeah.
But you did it, and you made it.
Hey, I'm here.
You came in, you showed up.
Yeah.
So that's a huge step.
Well, I'm
right
glad.
On.
Yeah. No, I want to, put myself out there. It's just difficult sometimes.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I've put myself out there at times. One thing that I did was actually I ran for Monterey City Council in 2020 when I was 28, and I decided I was going to run for Monterey City Council. It was the year of the pandemic, and there's just a lot going on, and politically and locally at all levels. And well, actually, there was this whole movement that was kind of happening locally among young people, and I met these young women who were deciding to run for seats in like Seaside and Salinas, and I was part of this group, and they were kind of like, oh, like we need someone in Monterey, and I'm like, there's no one really that that's in our group that lives in Monterey city limits, and nobody's, it was kind of like this thing where I kind of realized, like, if not me, then who? So I decided to throw my hat in the ring, and that was like really pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And luckily for me, that year, because it was the pandemic, all of the panels that they did, of the candidates was actually by Zoom. So like I could be in the comfort of my own home, and I was doing them. And I was pretty surprised that I was pretty, it was like surprising to me that I was well received in those panels and things, and I just really tried to like speak from the heart, and I guess that worked. So I've done it sometimes, but it's hard.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I didn't win, but I was the runner-up of behind the two incumbents. So
yeah,
that was pretty.
But you tried.
Yeah,
right.
I was like, I really thought I was like I might only get 50 votes? What if I don't even get 50 votes? And then I got, like, I forget how many it was. I got thousands, you know, and it was crazy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was pretty proud of myself.
Right. What were you trying to do? Get more of like a youthful kind of a aspect to what's going on? Or
yeah, just kind of because particularly in the Monterey City Council, there was no women.
Okay.
There was one young man who's now the mayor, Tyler Williamson, which is really cool because he's in his 30s. He's a young gay black man, and he became the mayor of Monterey. But the rest of the city council of Monterey were white men over the age of 60, you know? And so it wasn't very diverse, you know, it wasn't very, there wasn't that many people, different perspectives on the city council. And
for such a diverse area.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I get what you're saying.
And so one of my main issues was also affordable housing, which speaking of what's next for the middle class, it's just becoming, you know, so much more difficult. They say that millennials and Gen Z are going to most likely never own a home. You know, at this point, that's kind of the projection, is that the majority of my generation and the next generation will probably never even get to buy a house. It's just becoming this, you know, untenable situation. So that was one of the main things that I was interested in. And also just more equitable division of funding, you know, within the city. So
important stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't being tended to, huh?
Yeah, I think that there was just
so affordable housing, what else were you trying to bring to the table? Because they are making some steps on that now.
Yeah, they are.
They really are.
And Tyler Williamson is really behind a lot of that.
Good.
He's a great politician. Yeah, a fantastic advocate for all people of all walks of life. I'm really proud that he is the mayor of Monterey. I think that's really cool.
There was a bumper sticker, and I can't remember what it said on it, but was my take-home pay doesn't take me home. You know, and it was a gas shortage at that time, and I guess that rings a bell with me sometimes when I come into an area like Monterey. It's like the people that actually work here have to live so far away to be able to afford housing that, you know, the gas prices alone have just got to strangle you out.
Yeah.
Trying to get back and forth to work. So it's like I hear this affordable housing and we should have something closer. It's like, what's a good strategy there? You know? You don't want to work an hour away just so you can afford a little crappy house.
Yeah, but unfortunately most people do, you know, the workers that run all of our hospitality and our service industry, you know, almost everyone commutes in, and it's just not fair. I mean, it's definitely a difficult topic. It's not like there's an easy solution. But there are, you know, a lot of different creative things happening. You know, it's just like there needs to be political will behind it. But there were these projects of, you know, kind of taking over like hotels and things, and that are, you know, sub-optimal and not really full all the time. Converting those into, you know, small apartments for people that are unhoused.
That'd be perfect. You get a couple of dozen of those around.
Yeah, and like in the Bay Area, they're a little bit more progressive, and they've done a couple of those. But we have like, unfortunately though, in Monterey, like we're still so focused on the tourism that we're building even more hotels, you know, and all these kind of apartment buildings that you do see going up are like luxury, you know. It's kind of sad to see Pacific Grove become kind of a shell in a way. Like the high school is even my nephews are in high school now, and it's even smaller because there's like less families that actually are able to live in the area, and there's a lot of the homes are empty because they're second homes for someone, that doesn't even live here full time. And it just seems like it's still not quite, reached that critical mass where we're willing to take these, creative measures that we could take.
Too much money to be made out there, unfortunately.
Yeah. So, but I know that, Monterey has started kind of like a renter's assistance program. And it's just, again, sign of the times that, like, in order to qualify for, like, renter's assistance, I'm pretty sure the, like, a combined household income has to be lower than, like, 180,000 or something, I want to say. It's like with this benchmark of what now is, like, low income is just gone way high for here. Yeah, because it's just such a higher standard around here. So it's really interesting.
Well, you don't want a low rent district.
Yeah.
I come from Michigan. There's a lot of low rent districts that are just trashed.
Yeah.
Because it's government subsidized and people don't give a crap.
Yeah.
And there's garbage and there's, and nobody takes care of the lawns. And it's just like, so, I mean, you want to keep it beautiful, but maybe there's got to be a happy somewhere in between, right?
Yeah.
You see all these hotels around and somebody's making the beds, somebody's doing all the work, somebody's cooking, and there's such a huge staff.
Yeah.
And they have to live probably in the Salinas or, somewhere far away. So that's a tough one. Yeah.
I know.
Every square inch is so counted for here in California.
I know. Wouldn't it be cool if, like, the top levels of the hotels, instead of it being penthouses, was like housing for the workers, or different things.
Yeah, like the bottom 5 floors or something. Just right. They have their own little.
Yeah, there are, all these ideas of the, like, employers providing housing. It's not required right now, so it doesn't happen. But there could be measures where it becomes kind of a requirement for employers of certain size to provide housing for their workers.
Right. A certain size.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
right.
you put them under.
Not just like a mom and pop place, but there are some pretty big enterprises around here.
Yeah.
So.
But you're right, though, boy. If they found like a hotel or something that wasn't, if they could just buy that and just, there's so much room in those things.
Yeah.
It's got to be a good step towards, affordable housing.
Yeah.
Instead of taking massive land.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that, especially in a place like Monterey, where it is, there's not that much land to expand to. Building upwards is going to be probably one of the best options. Adding levels to buildings that already exist.
Right. Or using those. Yeah. Oh, cool. What else we got going on? Anything else? What's your hobbies? Do you have hobbies?
That's a good question. I like to read. I like to listen to music and listen to podcasts. I like to draw sometimes and paint sometimes.
What kind of music are you listening to now?
I really listen to all kinds. I know everybody says that. And
good for you.
Unfortunately, some might say one genre I'm not very well versed in would be heavy metal. But basically everything else I listen to at times, like hip hop and R&B. I listen to folk music, especially Latin American folk music.
Oh, how cool.
I mentioned that I really, actually, one of my biggest hobbies I should mention is language learning. So I like to listen to music from all over the world and like study the lyrics of different languages as a way of practicing the languages that I learn. So I really listen to a lot of international and all types of different genres.
So you speak English, German, Spanish, what else?
Those are my main 3.
Those are your main 3.
And then I speak French. Okay. I've been studying Mandarin Chinese for a little while now. Yeah. So that has been one of my biggest projects right now, is to try and learn Mandarin. And I actually am getting a chance to go to China next month in May. My father has a friend who's a professor there, and he invited me to come. So I'm going to be going there for a few weeks next month, and that's going to be the first time I've actually been, immersed and get more chance to speak it, because a lot of the learning of Mandarin that I've been doing has just been online and kind of individual study. So that's going to be a big challenge.
Yeah.
But I have dabbled, because I like it so much, I've dabbled in like a lot of different languages, and have words and phrases in many different ones, but like Portuguese and Italian and Catalan a little bit. But yeah, Spanish, German, those are my top two, then French and Mandarin.
I've got this girl I watch on YouTube. I think it's Oriental Pearl.
Oh, I know her.
Do you know her, the blonde girl?
Yeah.
Yeah. She's from Detroit, not too far from where I grew up. And it's funny to see her going from Korean to Chinese to Japanese back to, it's like, how do you keep all of that?
Yeah, actually,
and be able to sort it all out. You guys' brain is amazing. How you can do that.
I think that each subsequent language, it becomes easier, actually.
Oh, you think?
But I don't know her that well. I only knew that she spoke Mandarin because I was watching a different Mandarin teacher, and she interviewed Oriental Pearl on there. So, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
She's married to a Japanese guy living in Japan, but she also speaks Korean and Chinese. It's like, wow,
that's cool.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They seem like they might be similar. Maybe it's just because my American ear sounds, all the Asian kind of sound alike, but I'm sure once you're immersed into it, it's nothing.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, the cool thing about Japanese and Chinese is that the Japanese language uses a lot of the ancient Chinese characters.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So, but they're not pronounced at all the same way.
Right.
But if you were to pick up a Japanese newspaper as like a Mandarin speaker, you'd be able to understand a lot because the characters would still have the same meaning, even though if someone were to read it to you, you wouldn't understand because it'd be like pronounced totally differently. Yeah.
Interesting. How cool is
So
that?
I'm sure she has some, there's crossover in that way.
Sure,
Korean's kind of its own thing entirely.
Yeah.
But
I see so many people that are going to the language arts or language DLI, I guess they call it, DLI. And boy, they're learning everything from Farsi to, I had one guy in here who was studying Korean, and he had to do some kind of report, but he had to do it as an engineer. He's like, that's a complete different language than what you'd speak on the street. You need to know the in-depth, type
technical,
of thing.
yeah.
Right. So that was really interesting. They really get deep here.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool to watch them go through it. Because you came to see me as a massage therapist when he first got here, and then to just talk to him as he's progressing, and it's just like 100 miles an hour, and sink or swim.
Yeah,
that's a tough one. Well, it was so interesting to have you in here today. We covered a lot of topics.
Yeah.
I sure appreciate you coming in.
Thank you
what a
for having
blast.
me.
I want to put a link up to the coffee shop and all that kind of thing, so we can
That'd be
get
great.
hooked up with a little bit of information on that, which way it's going. I'm so stoked for you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much again for coming in.
Yeah, thank you
All
for
right, Miss
having me.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you soon. Love you guys.